It's rut and river.
Yes.
Correct.
R-U-T.
I rest my beard hair on it.
And then you know you're there.
Like a nice, gentle little pillow for my beard.
Right.
And then I'm all up in it.
Oh.
I'm like Kobe beef for sharks.
Can I ask you, what made you guys call me up about, well, this?
That's what tickles our fancy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thought the Rocky Mountains would be rockier.
John Denver is not accurate.
Man.
A guy like you, who has absolutely no clue, and I can hear it in your voice, that, I mean, you're a blank canvas. I mean, I can just start with you like from scratch.
You're going to tell me, a grown man, you're telling me what lure to use and how to fish?
You guys didn't snap your whopper plopper off either, though.
Sorry, I blew up over that.
And we are back around the Sonic Campfire. Welcome, everybody. This is Rut and River Pursuits Podcast. I'm Bucky. Who do I have with me tonight?
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Will.
And I'm waiting to hear more names.
Oh, I hear crickets, bud.
Yeah.
Oh,
we got us a nice, quaint little group here tonight, but here's something to remember.
We are Reality Outdoor Radio, where our mission is to get you in the outdoors by connecting you to people, skills, and products that you can trust.
You can trust them.
Yeah, you can.
This month's episodes are brought to you in part by Scared Fishless Tackle Company. You'll find everything you need to be successful on the water there. These soft plastics are rugged. Will caught multiple fish on the same 6-inch diamondback worm during our most recent pike and bass trip to New York.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, he did.
He slayed them.
them.
Need a custom color or bait made? Hey, guys, they do that too.
Noise.
Check them out at scaredfishless.com.
Scared Fishless.
Or on Instagram and the Facebooks at Scared Fishless.
Scared Fishless.
Guys, I am so excited. We are in our second week of Bass-tastic month.
Yeah,
Yeah,
buddy.
we are.
And it just keeps on getting better and better. I mean, last week we had Jim Crowley. This week we're moving a little...
Mr. Crowley.
Mr. Crowley.
Bom, bom, bom.
Yep. And we're moving a little closer to us. We're moving a little east with our guest this week with Brandon Barrett out of Bloomington, Indiana.
Yeah, buddy.
Brandon, you on the line?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Brandon.
What's
how's it going?
happening?
Not a whole lot. I just got done mowing the grass, and now I'm talking to you guys. Talk some bass fishing.
All right.
Exciting.
Exactly.
Mowing the lawn and ripping lips. That's what I like talking
right.
about.
That's right.
Getting that...
More about ripping lips than mowing the lawn.
But you're getting the yard mowed on Thursday so you can spend the weekend fishing, though, I bet.
You're pretty much right, yeah.
Because isn't that the joke with tournament fishermen, that their lawns are always the longest in the neighborhood?
Hey, and that's true, because you come back on Sunday night or Monday, and, yeah, everybody's done mowed their yard on Sunday. You haven't touched yours.
So, Brandon, let's give everybody here just a real quick background. I mean, one of the things that first jumped out to me when I got to learn who you were and follow you on Instagram, and you talk about how you're starting out trying to become a professional fisherman, and you wanted people to follow along on your journey.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Where did that decision come from?
So I grew up fishing. I mean, everybody says, I remember this and this defining moment for me when I knew I loved fishing. I don't even really remember. I know my dad and my grandpa took me from the time I was in diapers, I think. I mean, I've always fished, and I've always enjoyed it, and I kind of dabbled as a co-angler in my younger years, trying to learn about tournament fishing and stuff. But for the most part, it was always for fun. But I did enjoy competition. I was in track and cross country and basketball and sports in high school and things like that. And I loved competition. And so got in my early 20s and decided I was going to start fishing as a co-angler to try and learn. But I started fishing quite a few tournaments, and I was doing it at now it's the Costa level. I think back then it was the Rayovac series or Stren series or something like that. And I really enjoyed it, but I got offered a job in the oil and gas industry when I was 22. And so I left home for probably 7 or 8 years, getting my feet wet in that industry and getting a nice career for myself. And I just moved home probably 4 years ago. got married, had a couple of kids, and one day I told my wife, I was like, something's missing, and I really think that I would like to try to fish for a living. And I get back into this competitively. And, I was in the Marine Corps also for quite a while. And
Semper Fi, brother.
Go through some. Thank you. You go through something like that and you realize you can literally in this life do anything if you set your mind to it. I mean, if I wanted to, it would take me a long time, but I could become an astronaut someday. Any of us could. You've just got to adapt and overcome whatever comes your way. Look at Clay Dyer. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but you talk about somebody who's overcoming the odds there.
Yeah.
But so with her blessing, we just decided, hey, let's give this a shot. And we started looking at this from a logistical standpoint. What is the best way to go about this without spending all of our family money? Because you guys bass fish, you know how expensive it is. It's crazy.
Well,
it's really cheap.
Yeah,
Brandon, it's cheap.
Rather inexpensive.
Yeah, it's real cheap.
Well, I don't want you don't have to tell us all your secrets, but what did you say to her?
Yeah, how'd the conversation go exactly?
I
how
can't
did she say
exactly.
yes?
I think I just opened my mouth and just a bunch of words came out. Something along the lines of, I want to fish for a living.
And then she was just like, absolutely.
Yeah, I have a feeling if I opened my mouth and those words fell out, the next thing that would fall out would be my teeth. Yeah. So, I mean, good on you. You have a very supporting and loving wife. Not that I don't.
No.
But
it sounds like Brandon is very persuasive.
She's on board 100%, and she stands behind everything I'm doing. She edits all my pictures for me, and she's helped with brochures and trying to get sponsor support and things like that. And that was the one deal, because in the oil and gas industry, I kind of understand the way business works and the way partnerships work and things, and it's like, well, so there's two ways that people do this, or there's actually one way. That I've seen most people do it. Mm-hmm. And it's, you go out and you waste all your money and all your time. You ruin friendships, relationships, trying to become this incredible angler. And some guys do it and some guys don't. And I think a lot of times they fail because they don't have any support on the back end.
Right.
And so we decided, let's do this backwards. I didn't even have a Facebook account at this time. I didn't even really know how to use it. And this was 2 years ago. Said, well, let's get some social media stuff together. Let's figure out how to use that. And we're just going to share the journey with everybody. And hopefully we can get some support and we won't have to pay for this out of our own pocket completely. Well, and we have been successful and gained a lot of really, really good support. And we've been very blessed.
I guess, the timing was probably perfect for something like that. Because like I said, when I first got introduced to you, this is the first I was hearing about this kind of idea, so it was begging to be done. And 2 years ago would have been around that perfect time with Instagram starting to pick up the way that it was. And, it was just the right place and the right time, I think. And you nailed it. You found a niche that needed to be filled.
Well, yeah, thank you. We're still learning every day. I mean, it's like I said, I didn't even have social media 2 years ago. I mean, this is all new. It's been such a learning, but it's fun to share the journey. And I want to share all of it, the highs, the lows, the disappointments, the successes, the everything with everybody. And I think people appreciate that.
Oh yeah. One of the things now that you're talking about the highs and the lows, because we actually use that exact same phrase. We like to talk about the highs and the lows in the outdoors. And there was a video you had on Instagram here not too long ago where you were explaining some additional uses of those power poles on the back of your boat.
I use them for a lot of things.
I think in this case it was a ladder to get back in the boat.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that nice little spill.
What'd you do? Lose your whopper plopper?
I think I need a longer boat.
Yeah, he was just walking toward the camera, and then you could see that there was some pretty obvious jostling of the camera going on, but you don't know that he isn't standing right behind it, moving it around. Boy, and the next thing you know, you see him crawling onto the deck of the boat, and he's soaking wet.
You ran out of turf.
Yeah, I did. I need a longer boat.
And I mean, there's no reason that video couldn't be, shouldn't be, or wouldn't be buried by anybody else, but that's perfect to share with the world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought, man, this is hilarious. I'm just going to show it to people. See, what had happened is I was practicing for a tournament, and everybody told me at this lake we were at, they're like, well, you know, you might catch a 5-pounder, or it's pretty rare, and I'll be darned if I threw my worm up on the bank and a 5-pounder grabbed a hold of it, and I couldn't get it to let go. I mean, I walked it around the boat for probably 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and it wouldn't let go. And, I mean, finally, so I reeled it in. I thought, man, I hope I got that on film. And I was walking back there to make sure my GoPro was running, and I just, for some reason, couldn't quit walking.
That's like
walks with plank.
Bill Dance stuff.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the world hasn't seen that kind of fishing since Bill Dance was on the scene.
It's so good.
That's great.
Yeah, luckily my power poles were down, and they did make it really easy to climb back in the boat, I'll tell you.
That's funny. Good stuff.
Not to just key in off of something you said there and take us in a completely different direction, but I'm about to. When you're pre-fishing a tournament like this, and you said you know he was holding on to your worm and you're walking around the boat, you're not throwing any kind of hooks, right?
Well, I did have a hook on this one because on certain baits you can't get them to work right without it. And like I tried crimping the barb down, and I tried cutting it. It seemed like if I'd cut it even a little bit, then every other cast I'd have to re-hook, you know, put the worm back on the hook. And so, yeah, I did have a hook on there, but I was just trying to shake it off. And usually you can. They'll let go after a little while. She grabbed it and just went out with it. And she was going. She was bound and determined to eat it.
That's something I've always wondered, you know, because you hear guys talk about pre-fishing for tournaments and stuff, and they're throwing stuff to feel the bite. And I'm like, how do you make that work without a hook?
Serious. Well,
in some cases,
a lot of times
you
you have to use a hook, and you just try to shake them off. You just try to not put any pressure on them, just let them spit it out. But sometimes they hook themselves. There's just nothing you can do. Certain baits won't work right without hooks.
Since Ryan brought up pre-fishing tournaments, I have to ask, we were up at Sodas Bay, not this past trip, but the trip before last year. We saw what looked like to us some tournament fishermen out there in some nice boats with, you know, sponsors on it, and they would zip to one spot, maybe cast 2-3 times, put their rods down, get back in, you know, life vest back up, get in the seat, and spin off to the other side of the bay and do the same thing, and then go to a different. Right. What are you guys doing? Like, how are you? Explain that voodoo to me.
Well, I don't know if I'm quite that run and gun kind of person. I like to kind of check out different areas, and I just mostly stand on the trolling motor. You know, I've got it on 70 or 80% a lot of times, trying to just cover water, because you don't want to spend a lot of time in one area being really thorough, because all you're doing is showing the fish your bait that you're probably going to use during the tournament. You know, you're sort of wasting your time. You know, if you've caught a couple of decent fish in that area, well, now you've got some confidence. That's all it's about, is you're just trying to gain confidence in something. And so let's say I hooked that 5-pounder. Well, actually, I caught it. And then I turned around, and 20 yards down the bank, I catch another 3-pounder, or I shake it off and I get to see it and it's a decent fish. I'm going to leave and go somewhere else.
Like a Taylor Swift song. Shake it off.
He's going to shake it off. That's
yeah. I'm a little slow.
That's all right. Stick with me, bud.
Will's our pop culture guy. He likes to throw in a lot of teeny bopper references when he can. So I like it.
It's rare that I can, but
it's a secret love with pop radio.
So then you have these fish. You know, you catch a 5-pounder, you catch a 3-pounder, and then what? You're done. Go to Arby's. Like what?
No, so let's say you come into this bay, or you're always trying to pay attention and like how close to the bank was that fish? Was the fish, how deep was the water? Was it on hardwood? Was it on rock? And if you're trying to establish a pattern of some sort, but I mean, if you've caught a couple of decent fish in an area, maybe you don't even leave, maybe you just keep fishing that area to get a feel for what they're doing, but you're trying not to hook them. That a lot of guys have different thought processes on how to do it. I fished the FLW tour as a co-angler, and I had a few different pros let me practice with them, and they all had a different way of doing it, but it was very much, cover water, try to get some confidence in something and see a lot of the lake. You want to see as much of the lake as you can. So that way, let's say I go into Cove A and they're biting real good back there. And then I think, man, that's where I'm going tournament morning. I go in there first thing and it's full of mud. Well, I'm going to be really glad I didn't spend all my time in there during practice and I covered a lot of water, because now I've got other places I can go look.
So that explains then why they're bouncing all around the bay, just casting a couple times.
Yeah.
Just getting a feel and getting a plan.
Yep, that's pretty well it.
Now, do you guys work on, like, I'm going to work this lure, see if this is working, or are you looking at color and looking at colors, or is that determined on the day that you're fishing?
I think your colors a lot of times are going to be, for me, it's either green pumpkin or black and blue. I mean, maybe some variations thereof. If there's like for instance, if you go to Gunnersville, you've got a red rattle trap. There are certain places where just certain colors work.
Sure.
And now,
but for the most part, I usually dial that in on tournament day, because that's going to be, for me at least, I feel like that's something that's going to be day to day, maybe different. Or water clarity. If the water's real clean, probably just going to have green pumpkin on. It's dirty, black and blue.
I'm going to rue the day that I even asked this question.
I'm sure.
Rue away.
But do you keep a log of your tournaments and your practices and what's going on? And is that how you know that at this lake and a red X wrap is going to work and it's always going to work? Or do you hear that in the rumor mill? Go through that process with me.
I think a lot of that, and I have gotten into like keeping an actual diary, as far as like, May 30th, went in this bay, did this, caught fish on that, water temperature, water level, all that stuff. I've gotten into that before, but it just doesn't work very well for me. I'm very scattered, a little bit of a scattered mess.
Yeah.
But I tend to just try and rely on my instincts and try and just go based off of confidence. And really, I think a lot of it is, as a bass fisherman, we get so obsessed with this sport that, like, any kind of free time you have, you're sitting on your phone or your computer and you're watching Bass University, and that's how you learn about a lot of this stuff, is you're watching the pros and what they're doing on certain lakes and what's been successful. And or if you have a tournament at Gunnersville, you're going to look up what was successful in the past. And I would guarantee you a lot of times that Gunnersville craw color is a good one.
Yeah. Well, I really hope that we get to be a journal entry in your journal.
Heck yeah, you guys are going in. Podcast number 1.
Amen. How does this co-angler, like when you were starting to learn the pro world and you were co-angling, how does that work? How do you
is it just is it a networking thing, or did they pick you, or?
No, it's completely random. It's a random draw. So I signed up to fish I think 5 events each. I did it for 2 years on the tour level. And I signed up to fish. I think I could squeeze 5 out of the 7 in each year. And they just pair you up randomly with one of the pros. And, you may be with someone awesome. Well, you're guaranteed to be with someone awesome fishing the FLW tour.
Yeah,
but you may be with, for instance, I got drawn out with Andy Morgan one day. And, we kind of hit it off, and he let me practice with him for a few days at Beaver.
Oh, cool.
And that was an experience. Oh my gosh.
So
you talk about trying to soak in as much as you can.
Yeah.
What was a good takeaway from that day?
It was neat to just see how mechanically perfect he is as a fisherman. I mean, you can tell that he relies heavily on his instincts and time on the water, and he has just honed his skills to a point where it's almost ridiculous. He is incredibly talented. And just watching the way that he covered water during practice and just watching the way he dissected the water and kind of tried to put the pieces of the puzzle together in his head.
Sure.
It was cool. And I learned a ton, more than I'll ever know, probably.
One of our guys calls them outdoor cyborgs. Pick Diesel coined that term.
That's a good way to put it.
Yep. They just, they're
I'm
machines.
fishing behind him, and it's like, dude, I just flipped at that tree. How did you catch a 5-pounder and I didn't?
It's the technique, I guess, right? And like you're saying about how it's like perfection. These guys are so technical.
Yeah.
And
I think they spend so much time on the water. You know, he looks at a root ball a lot differently than I do. I see a root ball and I just start on the left and go to the right. Well, he's going to see that root ball and he's going to know exactly which root that fish is laying under and smack him in the head. That's the only thing I can figure.
Is there an etiquette? Like, does the pro get a cast in always first, and you should wait for them? And you let them say, okay, now you can fish this spot.
Oh yeah. At least I always tried to be really respectful of my pros and stay out of their way.
Never look them in the eye.
Yeah, never. Yeah, don't challenge them.
Yeah.
Don't challenge them. No, I mean, I asked a lot of questions. I was probably overly friendly and respectful. I don't know. I mean, at times I wasn't even fishing. Even during the tournaments, you know, you're here on the FLW tour. I'm in the boat with Justin Atkins, who just won the Forestwood Cup. I'm not interested in competing with him out of the back of his boat. I know a lot of the guys were, but I didn't mind going home with a big goose egg because I learned more. Although I did catch some fish behind him on a Ned rig, and that was cool. But
wow.
Always after him. But I mean, at certain times, you know, the one thing you're not supposed to do from the back of the boat is tie on exactly what they've got on and do exactly what they're doing. But I kind of thought, well, you know, I've never really used a shaky head a whole lot, and here he is smacking them on a shaky head. I'm going to tie a shaky head on, and I'm just going to mimic what he's doing so I can take that home with me. And you know, like I said, a lot of times I wouldn't even fish. I would just watch. And I think they appreciated that.
And that was the last time you were invited back.
That's right. Yeah.
Did you ever outfish the pro?
One time I did. Yes. One time.
Did you just want to crawl underneath the bench or something? I mean,
he wasn't in a good mood. He wasn't mad at me. I think he was just upset with his day.
It's going to happen, I imagine, from time to time. You just have a bad day.
Absolutely. I had a CoAngler at Dale Hollow outfish me 3-0.
Really?
On my own fish. You know, it's like, what can you do? Sometimes you eat the bear and sometimes the bear eats you, I guess.
How do you personally bounce back from those days? Because I know some guys that get in their head and stay in their head for a while.
Yeah.
I'm still learning.
So it's a slow process.
Yeah, it's a slow process for me. I mean, I'm driven by my faith. I believe that the good Lord's in control of all of this. And I kind of just, that's what I lean on is like, okay, so for some reason,
you cast on the other side then of the boat?
That's right. Yeah, I cast my net on the other side.
Just checking.
We've talked a little bit about the tournament world, unless you want to throw any more tidbits about that. And I want to get into like ask you, what's your favorite technique? How do you,
before we go into some of the technique stuff, I do actually have one more question, because you touched on it early on, that you have this level of competitiveness it's been part of you forever, you know, through high school sports and everything else. And it kind of lends itself to tournament fishing. Do you feel like you've lost anything as far as the love of just fishing?
Good question.
Love and feeling.
Yeah. Have you lost that love and feeling?
I'll tell you honestly, I love fishing. I enjoy it. I still do it for fun, but it's not what drives me anymore. I wanted to catch a 10-pounder so bad I couldn't see straight for a long time. But there's always been a goal for me, you know, but So I don't want to say no. I mean, I still enjoy going out crappie fishing and fun fishing with my friends. It's still really enjoyable and I still love it, but the competitive part has definitely taken over.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. But I don't think I've lost any love for it.
Do you find that if you're not competing now that it's not as fun?
No, I would love to say, well, no, that's true, but I think it is still as fun. Although I don't know that I could do it without competing, because if I'm in the boat, I'm not going to be. To me, the competing part is fun because I'm competing with the fish.
Right.
I'm trying to.
That's the spin I was going to.
I've got a vendetta against them, and so I don't know that I could bass fish without competing.
I usually take it one step at a time. I set the bar low. I want to catch a fish today, and then it's okay. Today's a good day, so now I'm going to. That way I'm always enjoying what I'm doing. And
this is in no way trying to compare to what you've set out to do, but like just our little podcast group has 8 guys, and it's kind of funny how the competition is off the chart because everybody's trying to outfish each other and so I can imagine on a grander scale.
Yeah.
Do you have a circle of friends, or you have guys that you're constantly kind of like measuring up to and getting after?
Oh yeah, I've got buddies. I joined a bass club a couple of years ago when that was one of the things. It's like, all right, I need to learn as much as I can. I need to network. I'm going to join a bass club. So sure. I joined a bass club, Tri-County Bass Anglers, and they're out of Bedford, Indiana. And man, it's a great group of guys, awesome fishermen. And yeah, we give each other crap all the time, trying to outfish each other. And but for the most part, I think we kind of root for each other and trying to help each other along. Mm-hmm. Even like in the Indiana Bass Federation out here, heck, it's a lot of camaraderie. I haven't really gone after anybody just yet. I don't know that I ever will.
Yeah.
I think I'm always just trying to get better, and I'll just fall where I fall.
But with any good camaraderie, there's also a good bit of ribbing that goes on there. So that goes with it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there.
You pick one of our guys, Brian Pikarowski, is in a one of those Bass Federation tournaments. Yeah, and he does all of his is in a kayak. And it's funny that, we're following along like watching him kind of go up and down,
up and down, yeah,
up and down in places and stuff like that, and rooting.
He's on a roll. He got bumped.
Oh, when he gets bumped, we give him a hard time.
He's got all the opportunity in the world. He's very, very talented. But it's just, I'm really kind of hearing you talk about it, and he just kind of joined the group. So this is all kind of new to some of us, this kind of bass action. You spend a whole summer or more trying to, just competing. And so for some of us, it's like just trying to get out is the win.
Some of that's the...
Will got out of shape just because Ryan got to quote unquote wet wade already.
So
thanks for bringing that up.
We have the Susquehanna around here, right? I don't know if you've heard of that river?
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah, and it's right in our backyard. And one of the things we absolutely need to do and love to do is wet wade. And I saw a picture of the guy sitting to my right in the water and
touting the wet wade
with a bass in hand, and I nearly flipped my table here.
However, to clarify,
I'm like, was that in the that wasn't on the calendar? Did we not? No one told me you were fishing.
Completely different body of water.
Yeah,
and I was up to my ankles because it was so muddy and fast.
Sure,
it wasn't the right time. I just got lucky in that.
That's the story you're telling, bud.
Heck yeah,
yeah. I
couldn't see any background in that picture, could you, Bucky?
I'm so ready. It would be like our first wet wade, our first real kind of like, smallmouth kind of excursion, and man, I'm just so ready for that, and to see him kind of showing off already without me knowing.
I would never.
Yeah. Anyway, so but that obviously tells you the level of competition and what we do for around our tables. But
speaking of rivers, do you prefer fishing rivers, lakes? Do you primarily fish lakes because of the tournament series? What are your thoughts on that? Do you have a preference?
At this point where I'm at now, it used to be I always enjoyed rivers more, but I bought a house 3 years ago or so on Lake Monroe here, and I've been spending a lot of time on it, and so I'm getting a lot more comfortable fishing reservoirs. And so I would have to say lakes right now. But it's funny, you asked me earlier if I had lost any love for fishing because of the competitiveness of tournament fishing. And I was just listening to you guys talk about wading the creeks and stuff. And
sure.
And that's actually one of my favorite things to do. And I do it all by myself. Is I'll go get in Indian Creek or some of the creeks around here and just wade and take a little spinning rod with a little cream tube and try to catch smallmouth.
Yeah.
And so, I guess I would say, no, I haven't lost any love for it. I'm still morbidly obsessed with it.
Absolutely.
I think that's the little boy in all of us still fishing, getting wet and half swimming and half fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just have bigger toys now as you get older. Your toys get bigger.
Yeah. But the cost doesn't go up. We're going to keep that clear tonight.
Yeah. We got a little dry bag and, what do you? So you said cream tubes in the river. What else are you using?
Oh, like little Mr. Twister. Just anything small. A little Yamamoto Cinco works great.
Right.
You can't really go wrong with that anywhere. But
yeah.
I smashed a 4-pound bass on a yellow or chartreuse Mr. Twister this weekend. I was totally surprised because we were catching crappies.
Yeah, you were fishing for crappie.
Yeah, we were crappie fishing, in fact.
It was one of my very first baits that I ever kind of started using was those little Mr. Twisters. Another really good one is, if you guys haven't heard of it, it's called a steel shad. It's just a little blade bait. And man, I'm telling you, that bait will catch everything. I have a buddy who I met. My wife and I, we host an annual seminar out at the Four Winds Lakeside Inn and Marina out here in Bloomington.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And it's this Bass Fishing 101. We're trying to introduce people to the sport of bass fishing. So, I've got a real addictive personality, and I understand how somebody could get lost in the bottom of a bottle or pills or drugs or whatever. And I figure if I can introduce one person and get them just completely obsessed with bass fishing like we are, then maybe save a life. You don't know. But
sure.
So we host this event every year, and I met this guy named Michael. He came to our event, and we kind of started becoming friends. And he saw me down at the boat ramp one day afterwards, and he asked me if he could fish with me. And I was like, well, sure, yeah, come on, hop in. He was just kind of asking me different lures and things, and I have become friends with Jay Ellis on the FLW tour. And at a certain point, he had hooked me up with that company, Steel Shad. And they sent me a bunch of different baits, and I hadn't ever really tried them a whole lot. And I just threw one to Michael, and I said, here, try this. Just cast it out, wind it in kind of deal. I'd never seen anything like it. And this guy is pretty new to bass fishing, and he is just slaying them from the back of my boat. Well, so we enter a tournament together, a little jackpot tournament. He catches a 5-pounder out of the back of my boat on one. Nice. I was like, all right, give me that.
Right. That's it. Move to the front.
That's it. And so I've been pretty obsessed ever since. I throw that thing all the time.
And now you know how that pro felt that day you outfished him.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, actually, I was happy for him, to be honest, because I thought, man, that's cool.
yeah, I wouldn't expect anything.
I'm taking a look at those steel shad right now, and I've actually seen them at some of our local fishing shows and stuff.
Yeah, you should give them a try.
So
They're good.
Pick them up. What colors? What I need? Fire Tiger?
Can't go silver or gold. I mean, you can't go wrong with. And the Fire Tiger is excellent. You got a bunch of crawfish. The little craw color they've got's really good too.
That'd work in the Susquehanna then.
Heck yeah.
But it's one of those baits that nobody throws except for in the wintertime. And so I throw it in the summer. I caught a 6-pounder last year in a club tournament. Actually, it's my profile picture on Facebook on my fishing page. Brandon Barrett fishing. It's that I caught it on a steel shad. Everybody thinks I'm crazy for throwing that thing all the time, but I think they're crazy for not.
Hey, if the machine's working.
Yeah. Throw what
That's
you know.
right.
Like that's another thing I hear all the time is throw what you know. It's just, you know, those confidence baits that everybody's got that they like.
Yep, you're right.
You had mentioned a Ned rig. Is that on the soft plastic side? Is that your go-to, or like you said, a Senko?
No. I hate throwing the Ned rig. It's slow. It takes
swing and a miss there, Bucky.
Well,
I'll do whatever it takes. It just it's slow, you know.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I almost always have one tied on just to try, because sometimes it just, like up on the Mississippi River, for some reason those smallmouth just devour it. And a lot of places you can go out on the Ohio River and they'll devour it too, and just take like a little 3-inch Senko, and man, you can have a good time.
It's incredible. I mean, it is the most boring, crazy.
Will, your quote while we were in the middle of Soda's Point is still one of my favorites. It's going to be one of my favorites for a long, long time.
For a while.
But Brandon, I got to tell you, we're standing on this boat, we're fishing, and we're trying everything, and it will work for 5 or 10 minutes. And then for whatever reason, the bite changes. So now they want something that's swimming, or now they want something that you're dragging or bouncing. You know, it was just, we were rotating through stuff. And Will lays into, that was one of the 5-pounders, I think, that we landed up there. And he is slow rolling his soft plastic on the bottom. As he's fighting this fish, he yells, "I hate fishing like this, but I love catching fish."
Yeah, that's how it is. I mean, that's how I feel about it too.
It was lift and stop, reel, lift and stop, reel, lift and stop. It was so boring, but they were hitting it.
Yeah, and there's times when they won't hit anything else.
So if you had your druthers and you could catch the fish any way you wanted, if we move away from the finesse styles, what would you try to throw with some, trying to get those reaction strikes? What would you be throwing?
Oh, you gotta be a Topwater. I mean, there's just nothing more fun than watching one blow up on a whopper plopper or a spook, or a little pop R or something. I mean, it's just so fun.
Yeah.
I've been getting into throwing swim baits here lately, and those are a blast. But yeah, Topwaters are just really, really exciting. I like something that I can wind, a spinner bait, or like the steel shad, or just something that I can throw out and I can wind.
Sure. You feel like you're working, you're fishing then.
That's right. But sometimes I do get mad at them, and I want to go flip. I want to get up in that cover, and I'll just Texas rig a Senko and go in there and drag them out. That's fun too. But I would say a Topwater is probably my favorite, or maybe some sort of like a soft plastic jerk bait or something where you can watch the fish come up and grab it. That's really fun, especially during the spawn.
Do you get an opportunity out there in the lake you're living on now, I guess, right? You said was Monroe Lake?
Yeah.
Do you get any lilies and stuff growing up in there where you can start pitching frogs and stuff later in the summer?
We used to have a lot of lily pads on this lake, and then the lake flooded real bad twice in one year, and it killed all of our grass, and we have since just struggled to keep any vegetation in this lake. Wow. But there are some other ones around the area where I can go and do that.
Now, during this time of year, would you throw like a little duckling-like Topwater? Have you ever seen those or used one of them with any success?
I've never used one of those before. You're talking about the 3D Savage thing?
Yeah.
I've never used one, but they look cool.
It makes sense. I mean,
it does, and you see footage of people either catching stuff on those or footage of bass taking baby ducks, but I don't know. I want to say that it might be one of those deals where it's just a product to catch the fisherman.
Yeah, might be. I don't know. Never used one. Couldn't tell you, but I feel like it would probably catch big ones.
Yeah, if you get a hit, you know it. Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's going to be a big guy, or maybe even a muskie or toothier critter. Are you part of this Z-Man craze?
No, I don't think so. I'm always have been like a sold out Senko guy. And, I know that Z-Man little Ned little turd bit of TRD bait
Yeah.
lasts forever and stuff. But I think that a Yamamoto Senko has a different fall, and I think you get more bites with it. And so for the most part, I stick with on my soft plastics. For the most part, I'm sticking with Yamamoto most of the time.
Sure.
And look in everybody's tackle box. You go around to every single boat on the water in a tournament, and almost every guy out there is going to have some Yamamoto Senkos in his boat,
Oh, yeah.
probably tied on too, but they're still going to catch fish.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The first time
It's especially if you wacky rig them, it'll catch fish.
The first time we went wet wading on the Susquehanna was, I think, 3 years ago. I tug along with these guys, and I took my son with me, who was 12 at the time, and he's standing up to his shoulders in this river, and the seaweed's up to his waist, and he's looking at me like I'm crazy for even thinking this is going to work. And we borrow a 5-inch green pumpkin Senko from somebody and an offset worm hook, tie it on. He throws it out. Within 2 casts, he lands a fish. He caught, it must have been 20 fish on that one Senko. We left there and we cleared the shelf at Walmart. There wasn't a 5-inch green Senko on a shelf when we walked into a store that my son wasn't putting in a cart.
They're killer.
Yeah.
I mean, they are killer. And the cool thing about those baits is, too, you can hand it to an absolute beginner and they will catch fish on it.
I've got to ask this. Do you have a Rebel crayfish in your tackle box?
Oh, yeah. Who doesn't?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's like you always run home to, like you said earlier in the show, those familiar confidence baits that you know how to work, and they still work.
Yeah, and they're killer in little creeks and stuff too.
Yeah. Oh, it's so fun. Oh man, time flies when you're having fun, boys. That's for sure. This is one of the reasons why I don't like being the MC of the episode, because
you don't want to cut it off. You want to ask the next question.
I keep on wanting to go. I know. I got to be the axe man.
Yeah, good cop, bad cop, and Ryan and I are the good cops.
Today you are. So
well, Brandon was in the Marine Corps, so he knows about the heavy.
Yeah, I bet.
Hey, Brandon, we're coming up against time here, and we have to get in what we call our Fast Five. It's 5 questions.
Yep.
No answer is a wrong answer, but we will tell you if it's wrong.
Sure we will.
And just try to give us your quickest answer possible. What comes to mind?
You can. It doesn't have to be the quickest one possible.
Well, I like
it's
that.
not a race, but then again, Brandon said he's pretty competitive, so we'll see how this goes. And timer starts now. I'm kidding. Yeah. Go ahead, Bucky.
Brandon, what is the one thing that you cannot live without in the outdoors?
Oh, man, one thing I cannot live without in the outdoors. You know what? If you're talking gear or like things that you need to have.
Yeah, it's your
world's your oyster,
this
bud.
This is your question, bud.
Tell us.
You own it.
Your very first line of defense in the outdoors is your gear, like what you're wearing. So for me, it's frog togs. I mean, that's the first, because even in the summertime, you get up in the morning and your boat's covered in dew and everything's wet, and you don't want to sit down on that wet seat. Same thing if you're out in the woods, you want good gear on to keep you nice and dry and warm, and Frog Togs has all that stuff.
That's true.
Yep.
Lightweight.
So for me, if there's one thing I can't live without, it's Frog Togs.
Number 2, who's your favorite podcast?
You guys.
I'm just kidding.
Rotten River Pursuit.
All right.
Well, didn't get that one wrong.
Yeah, that's great. No, the real question is, number 2, what's your favorite movie?
Gosh. Sandlot.
Nice.
Killing me, Smalls.
God, just going there.
I got a million, but I don't know. I'm going with Sandlot.
That's a good one, bud.
All right, then.
First one that came to my mind.
Number 3, what's one thing you do every day to prepare for your outdoor lifestyle?
I get up in the morning. I get up at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I fix myself a nice cup of coffee.
That's perfect.
That's it.
That's
and you're ready to roll. That's all you need sometimes.
Spend a little time with the good Lord upstairs, and away I go.
I'm in your camp.
Yep.
That's wonderful.
Brandon, what's on your bucket list, bud?
I never did catch that 10-pounder. I caught one that was 9.32 pounds, but it was 27 inches long and all spawned out and looks like an eel. And so I still want to catch a 10-pounder if we're talking bass fishing, which I think we are.
Yep.
Yes, we are.
And just in general, like fishing, do you have another species of fish that you've never caught that you'd like to?
Oh, yes. Peacock bass.
Is that what you would say, like, it would be on your bucket list?
Yeah, 100%. Or muskie. I got a hold of a muskie one time. We used to have pike on the lake I live on now, but not anymore. Haven't ever caught a muskie before. I'd like to catch like a 52-inch muskie.
Yeah.
That makes about 4 of us.
Yeah, we could get you to Florida, I think, to land a couple of those peacock bass for sure. Unless your bucket list means you got to be in the Amazon for them.
Yeah.
Heck no.
Okay. If you're willing to take a Florida peacock.
Yeah, we got guys. Yep.
Yeah, I've fished in Florida a bunch, but it's always Okeechobee or Harris Chain of Lakes, or it's always bass fishing.
Sure.
Not peacock bass fishing.
Yeah.
No, they're madness. They're a lot like I would say they're as crazy as a smallmouth.
Really?
Yeah. They tug like crazy, and but they're just, you could throw almost anything at them, and they're gonna just look at it sideways and try and eat it.
Oh, that's
aggressive.
so
They're
cool.
so aggressive. Yep. Number 5, last question. What makes Brandon Barrett happy?
Helping others. I'm a giver. I am. I have such a nature for giving. I give sometimes too much, but I really truly enjoy it. My wife and I, we host a Cast for Kids event every year too. I don't know if you guys have been seeing that on my Instagram and Facebook. We've been blasting it like crazy, trying to get support for this event. But Cast for Kids, Jay Yellis also introduced this program to me. It's an organization that it's the nation's largest fishing charity, and they take children with special needs and military families out on the water for a fun day of fishing. And so I linked up with Jay, met him at a Bible study on the like Wednesday night before the tournament, and got to chatting with him or whatever. And so then he told me about Cast for Kids, and I thought, well, that's cool. And so I went home and talking to my wife about, how can we take this all one step further, fishing career thing. And it was like, we need to give back. We need to link up with a charity of some sort. And Cast for Kids was the first thing we thought about.
Sure.
And so got a hold of Jay and said, hey, really like to be involved in this. I'd like to help you guys fundraise. I've got social media platforms I can help you with. And he just kept trying to convince me to host an event. And I was like, well, I don't think I have time for that, but I can help you in other ways. And my wife was a special ed teacher. And so eventually at some point she just grabbed the phone and said, I'll do it. And
nice.
We hosted our first event last year, and it was one of the coolest things I have ever seen in my life. I mean, brings tears to your eyes watching these kids and their families get out on the water for just a few hours in the morning and get out there on the boats and catch some fish. And these families really struggle, and they don't get an opportunity to do those things. See, as a child, my brother was special needs, and we didn't get to do a whole lot of fun stuff. And that's something that's really near and dear to our hearts, is hosting that Cast for Kids event every year too. So
I'll tell you what, it's absolutely amazing, and it's so fitting and perfect, because the question was, what makes you happy? And we've been talking bass fishing since we got you on the line. And when you answered that question and talked to us about Cast for Kids, you could hear the tone in your voice change to just pure joy.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
That's what it's all about, man. I've been very blessed with this life that I've got here, and we've all got things in our lives, but at the end of the day, we've all got to help each other. We're all in this together,
Amen.
Oh, very, very good.
Brandon, you hit it out of the park here at the
Nailed
end,
it.
bud.
Thank you so much, for sure.
I call that going full Buckman there. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Guys.
Thanks for just having a transparent heart here tonight with us.
If you could, though, Brandon, hit up the Cast for Kids thing one more time, but also, where can people follow you and keep up with what's going on with you?
So we're very active on social media. I've got a Facebook page and an Instagram page that I'm very active on. It's Brandon Barrett Fishing. Our Cast for Kids event, I blast it at least once a week on there. I've got a link that I can send you guys. It's a fundraising page. Each event requires a minimum of $3,500 to launch, and our goal is $5,000 because that just makes the events that much more special for the kids. Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I am trying to get my YouTube game. I need to step it up about 10 notches. But
what kind of phone do you have? What's taking so long?
Yeah, exactly. For some reason, the content that I put out is just more applicable for Facebook or Instagram, and I'm very active on those two channels. But the cool thing about YouTube is it's there in, how do you say, like perpetuity. It's there forever.
Yeah.
And, I work with a company, if you guys know her, Super Clean, and they were telling me, they really love YouTube because it's there forever. And it's like, oh man, that's a really good point. So that's a platform that I have as well. I'm not as active on it as I should be, but Facebook and Instagram I'm very active on. And you can just search Brandon Barrett Fishing, or I have a webpage too. It's BrandonBarrettFishing.com.
Awesome.
And then we also, my wife and I, as if we're not busy enough, we also have a custom tackle business called Salt Creek Tackle. And they're also on Facebook, Instagram, and saltcreektackle.com. And It is our plan to change the world of custom tackle with this new business model that we have been putting together here.
That sounds good, man.
That sounds like another episode, bud.
I was going to say, unless you want to do a sneak peek at something right now, or we could have to.
Well, I don't want to divulge too much.
Okay.
Don't
but
beat them down,
I will
guys.
say that we're hoping to launch our webpage, and we started out as just a really small custom tackle shop. I was painting baits. See, I funded my FLW tour as a co-angler for those 2 years. I funded it by painting wiggle warts, the old pre-Rapala ones. I'd get on eBay and I'd find the ones that were for like on sale for $5 to $10, but they were the colors nobody wanted.
Sure.
And if I could find them at like that $9 range, it was perfect, because then I'd buy them, repaint them like a really cool craw color, and I'm not kidding you, not exaggerating, I was selling them for $50 a piece.
Holy buckets.
Whoa.
That's how I funded the FLW tour for those 2 weeks. And so that obsession kind of grew and took on a little life of its own. But we realized that the market is just stupid flooded with amazing talent. So our plan is to harness that. There is no marketplace for custom tackle right now. There's no tackle warehouse that exists for these guys. There's no, guys are selling them on Etsy. They're selling them on Pinterest. They're selling them on Marketplace, Craigslist. We're going to change that. So stay tuned.
That's cool. I like the sound of that.
Well, Brandon,
we've got some artists on board that are excited about it, and we've got some really, really reputable companies that are on board, and I can divulge their names because I've already done it on Facebook. We're going to start with Strike King, Rapala, and Lucky Craft, and then grow from there.
Wow,
Very cool.
That's awesome.
Like I said, as if I'm not busy enough, we're doing this too.
Golly.
That's good. That's good. Keeps you busy.
Well,
That's right.
Well, guys, again, the axe must fall. And
thanks a lot, Bucky.
We must.
No, Bucky.
Yeah, guys.
Yeah, Brandon, seriously, thank you for your time, bud. This has been a great night, and we really appreciate you hanging out and talking with us.
Not a problem, guys. I'm humbled and very appreciative of the invite, and just glad to be here.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Right. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah, bud.
How can people find us?
Well, as always, they can check us out, RuttenRiverPursuits.com. Follow us on all the social media properties, Facebook, Instagram, and the Twitters. Just search for Rutten River Pursuits. Of course, you want to check out the YouTube channel, Rutten River Pursuits Podcast. That's right. Make sure you follow us all individually, too, when you're on the Instagram, because there's always something going on.
Our $2.
And the podcast itself available, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
I do heart it.
I do heart
Not going to lie.
I love
Hey, and don't forget, this episode is brought to you in part by Smoke in the Grove Barbecue Festival.
Smoke in the Grove.
That's being held July 26th and 27th in Spring Grove, Pennsylvania. For more information, head over to smokeinthegrove.com.
Smokeinthegrove.com.
Love me them burn ends. And It's also brought to you in part by Moses Family Jerky.
Get out of town.
Oh, yeah. Get 15% off your next order by heading over to mfjerky.com. Make sure you use that promo code JerkyPursuits15.
Well, guys,
There it is.
We're out of disc space. We got to go.
See you, Bucky. Good one.
Rig 'em weedless.
Yeah, I have a feeling if I open my mouth and those words fell out, the next thing that would fall out would be my teeth. Yeah.
Oh yeah, at least I always tried to be really respectful of my pros and stay out of their way.
Never look them in the eye.
Yeah, never. Yeah, don't challenge them.
Yeah.
Number 2, who's your favorite podcast?
You guys.
I'm just kidding.
Rutten River Pursuit.
All right.
Well, you didn't get that one wrong.
Yeah, that's great.